Okay, I think it's working. This is the first time I'm trying anything remotely like this, so I have no idea how this is gonna turn out. Okay, what are the buttons on here? Okay, screen share, cameraman. Okay, control room. This seems like it's going to be useful. Okay. No idea. Okay, let me get on to Twitter and actually say that the live stream's up. Okay. What is the link? Okay. Here it is. Okay. So, copy. Jesus, I can hear myself from like 10 seconds ago. That's this chat seems to be completely different from the chat y'all are using, so I need to look at two different screens here. Okay. All right. I think I've got it all set up now, which is I have no idea if this is actually going to work because this is the first time I'm actually trying this. Okay. Hey guys. Okay, good. So everyone can hear me and such. I'm going to try and cut down on the latency here because it's like 10, 15 seconds behind what I'm actually saying, and that's tripping me up. So let's see. And there doesn't seem to be a way to cut that down. So it's going to be 15 seconds behind me, I guess. So looks like you guys can hear me, which is good. I'm going to have to take these headphones out, though, because I am hearing myself from 15 seconds ago, which is really tripping me up. Okay. Okay. So I'm guessing we should probably wait maybe a few more minutes just for other people to show up, and then I guess we'll dive into it. As you can see, I haven't exactly thought ahead about what to do before the stream actually starts. So a little bit nervous right now. Yeah. I'll get the ceremonial carving knife, I guess. Geez, it is weird seeing my hair from this angle, which actually is only due to the latency. So there's one good thing from that, I guess. Let's see. I should be more used to streaming than I am, considering I was part of the video club. But yeah, no, this is sort of new territory for me, as I think I've said 10, 15 times now. I think about 12:15 we'll start, assuming nobody else comes in. So yeah, my dorm is like smack dab in the middle of town, which means that cop cars are passing by this street like every few minutes. So if you guys hear several sirens, it's nothing to be worried about, apart from, there's something happening somewhere, which is always the case. Uh, if that's true, they are terrible at finding them, considering they pass this place like every 10, 15 minutes. Let me get up my notes at least while I wait, so that way I can actually answer your questions without thinking of the answers off the top of my head. So where are things? Okay, here's the folder. Here's the Twitter page. And I scroll down. Jeez. Only when you're scrolling through all the tweets do you realize just how much I've used Twitter, which is a bit surprising to me. Okay. Yes, okay. Uh, that's weird. I'm gonna try and close the window so it's not as loud. Give me a sec. Oh. Okay. That is as far down as it's gonna get. Okay. Oh, I have to reload this. And let's see. Yes, the update. Oh, Snapchat. Oh, I did not know you guys could actually download those. That, if I knew that, that would have taken a load off my mind because I hated using Snapchat because I knew it would vanish. So I tried to save as much as I can, which in the end turned out to be only the things that I needed for the update video on Jay's channel. But it hopefully I didn't put something in there that's only on Snapchat because that would suck. Like, apart from some characterization stuff, I think all the important info got onto the YouTube channel. All right. Okay, it is 12:14 now, so I think 12:15 was when I said we'd start. So looks like anyone who comes in is gonna have to be a bit late. Okay, let me actually try changing that because I should be able to mess with those settings. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let's see, podcast alert. That's a bit weird. Why is that? Analytics. Oh, info and settings, probably. That's what I'm looking for. Advanced. Okay, so. There's something about comments here. Certainly. Automatically block spam messages. That I can turn off. Okay. You guys might have to reload the page, but I think that you guys shouldn't have any problems using. There we go. I still can't believe you guys did that. That was. Live streaming is definitely complicated on YouTube. I know that I want to do it at some point in game, so I'm gonna have to spend some time and figure this shit out, because that is complicated. Yeah. Okay, I don't know why you would need analytics while on stream, so I can probably ignore that bad. Apologies, I'm just going to be looking through the settings for a bit. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's get down to business. Well, god damn it, that sounds stuck in my head. Okay, so yeah, looks like it's just us three for now. So what do you guys want to start with? You guys want to start with the Twitter page, which is probably going to go a bit quicker, or Stephen and John? People have other things to do, or are asleep / forgot. So it's why this thing does DVR. Okay, Twitter page. Let me bring that up. Okay. Damn. Okay, this is running real slow now, which I suppose should be expected since it's live streaming, but you're gonna have to give me a sec because my page just froze. So please don't say I have to restart the computer. I would be very upset if I had to restart the computer. Come on. Okay, task manager maybe. Okay, well now it's doing better, and I spoke too soon. Yeah. Ugh. This computer is not exactly meant for streaming, I guess. Okay. Okay. I think the safest thing to do is not actually screen share, so you guys won't be able to see the Twitter page unless I can figure out a way to do it, which doesn't crash my computer. So let's see here. Huh. Okay, I might away. Nope. Come on. This is killing me. Oh, that is. Come on. Oh, God. I'm not going to be able to show the Twitter page without crashing this completely. Okay. So let's start with Twitter page, even though you're just going to be looking at my ugly mug. So what is the first thing I want to talk about the Twitter page? Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's go over just what I was doing in the beginning. So for that, it was mostly a way to, I guess, do a little bit of behind the scenes, like not the real behind the scenes, but Jay's behind the scenes, if that makes sense, of how he was figuring things out, I guess is the best way to put it. So you're sort of seeing his thought process of how he's putting things together, and that's pretty much how it remained until he was asking for search engine questions, and I'm trying desperately to find what I actually wanted to talk about. Oh, here's an interesting thing. The VA instead of AD that Jay's World uses, that stands for vulgar age, which is an actual another way to, it was, I think, made by Pope Benedict III or someone with a fancy title who was also very Catholic, as another way of saying Anno Domini. So that's a fun bit of poorly remembered history. Okay, then there's Hiroshima and Kokura instead of Nagasaki. And sort of nothing interesting until, oh, okay, here's the first photoshopped image, and I'm actually sort of proud of this one, not just because of the little changes, but specifically the way I showed multi-tab, I think just works a lot better than just a normal square, which it usually is, which is, I don't know, it makes me happy. Okay, so Gerald Brody, here's the first bit of Twitter interaction apart from question asking. So, yeah. The Gerald Brody info is all from Zwant, which means it's all from Jay's World. So everything you guys know about Brody is pretty much just, if this is how he's like in Jay's World, he's probably similar in ours, which turns out to be true. Like, there's minor differences. For instance, he wasn't in the Marines, he was in the Army, but it's just tiny shit for him. He's pretty similar for both worlds. Then Shiv Rama and the Andromeda group, which doesn't mean anything to you guys now, but is going to be interesting in the future. And here we come to the next image. I'm actually really proud of the Shiv Rama logo because I really wish I could pull an image up, but I can't because I don't know how to use live streaming. So the badge in particular, like, it's obviously a sword, but if you just take the outline, it also is the silhouette of a stealth bomber, which is a nice little bit of imagery I tried to work in, and I think it worked well. And yeah, that's it until there's a lot of just scheduling that happens on the Twitter page, because I didn't want to do anything too major on it, because I figured that, you know, the main interaction would be on YouTube, so don't want to cut out a good majority of the plot for the majority audience. Oh, okay, I do remember something from the videos that I was supposed to tell you guys during the second part, but I had to cut out because the audio sort of fucked up. So, you guys remember the saying that Jay said that was from his father, right? The tiny phase that could totally be responsible for gravity, but until he got proof. So, the reason Jay's father said that all the time was actually because he was a journalist himself. Like, before Jay found out what he thought he found out about his dad being alive, he actually looked up to him a great deal, and that's part of the reason why he became a journalist himself. And there's me in the hospital, which, yeah, did actually happen and really sucked. Like, normally with appendicitis, you know about a week or so beforehand, before your appendix explodes. I had a 2-day warning, which was really more of a 1.5-day warning. So, yeah, that was not fun. Okay, and I'm already about halfway through the Twitter page, and we're just now getting to the codes. Okay, so onto the code Scylla/B64 thing. I'm not sure if I talked about this before, but yeah, the actual page does say code Scylla, but that was actually a mistake, because in a older draft of the script, it is supposed to be Scylla, because I wasn't originally going to use base64 for the link. I was going to use a different type of hash called whirlpool. So Scylla and Charybdis is a giant whirlpool, but it turns out I thought that whirlpool had been cracked, but no, it's just that I was using a site that gathered a bunch of hashes and then ran sentences through them that are commonly used, so you could kind of crack it, but not really. So I had to switch to the more common B64, which means that I had 2 copies of the ternary, and I accidentally copied the wrong one into the editor, so I had to go and ask one of my friends to pretty much propagate a different version of the ternary, because by the time that I had realized this, it was already too late. So I couldn't take down the video. Okay, and we're about 3/4 of the way through. Okay. Okay. Here's where Jay figures out Stephen and John's channel. And here's where Jay got Snapchat. Okay, yeah. What's the time? I already went over that. Okay, here is Blaze's stuff. Yeah, I didn't initially think he'd be starting out on Twitter, but you guys, again, surprised me with the Dear Jay letter, so I had to do what I had to do in order to keep the plot at least somewhat on track, which, hey, it was definitely surprising, and I had a pretty good time thinking up a way to try and keep Jay in the dark as long as he needs to be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here's where the clerk goes to prison. So, Eamon, if you ever see this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to be the clerk there. Talking about Edward, and yeah, I think I've said this before, but I am thinking of actors, and I do have one in mind as long as he'll be okay with it. Okay, and yeah. Yeah. Already talked about how Ellen couldn't make it to Bloomington, so I had to work something out with Asher's parents not letting her let her go. So yeah. And okay, so second and last Twitter poll. I don't know who on earth voted for the prequels, but damn, you guys are cold. And here's the second group of QR codes where Blaze pretty much tells Jay that he doesn't trust him and he should probably get the fuck out of this, which does have a reason. It's not necessarily a reason that everyone would agree with, but Blaze isn't everyone. He's a very particular person. And at this point, we are at the end of the Twitter page. So if you guys have any questions you want to have answered about that. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about the Twitter page before we move on to Stephen and John, ask away. Oh, yeah, Micah? Yeah, right now I'm not 100% sure the way he's going to communicate to y'all on a more permanent basis, but he is definitely going to have his own method of communication, whether this is going to be Twitter, YouTube, something else. It's not going to be Snapchat. It's just not. But yeah, apart from that, I know he's going to have one, but currently I'm not sure which he would choose. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting because Blaze is definitely, well, he's not the most technologically, well, he's very good with tech. He's not necessarily better with tech than two organizations, but the way that they'll treat their YouTube pages are very different, and Blaze is going to put a lot more effort into his than the organizations do, since they don't really care about style. They're just trying to get a message across to their counterpart without you guys knowing. Whereas Blaze is a bit more show-offish. I think that came across with how he chose to communicate with y'all, especially the audio QR code, which, yeah. So I think if that's it with the Twitter page, I will get Stephen and John's pages up here and we'll go on to talking about them. Uh-huh. So here they are. Yeah, he really threw himself into the name. I actually spent a good hour and a half, 2 hours, perfecting the flame effect that he used for the first video, which was very excessive, but I wanted it to be very obvious that it was a third party. Okay, so let me get up scripts. So, okay, here we are. So, yeah, the first coded video would be some footage from a sidewalk. Yeah, so I don't know how many y'all noticed this, but in a lot of the stock footage sections, there's blurred out logos, and this is purposeful because I figured these guys don't exactly care much about, as I said, style. So they're going to go with the cheapest, dirtiest option, which is, in this case, just taking the footage and then blurring it out just enough so it's not obvious they're using stock footage, even though it's pretty obvious. And okay, so the color code. Whew. Okay, that was probably the easiest for you to crack, but oh god, it was probably the second most difficult to make because I had to make each colored square by hand and then arrange it in that pattern, which, oh, yeah. Doing all, I believe 3 of them took like maybe an entire night of me working on that, which, it was not pleasant. It was very, I liked how it turned out in the end. I thought it looked great, but I definitely put in the hours for it to look great. Okay, so next up is, I think, 5.1. So, yeah, this is Isn't My Baby So Cute? Oh, yeah, it probably was. So, yeah, next one, I think, is probably the easiest code that was there, which is just the shifted ternary, where you just had to, take each value and add 1 to it. I have no idea, like, how quickly that came across, but that's why in the description you can see that it's already 1 year old, because it's sort of, you're supposed to add 1 to that. Yeah. I'm thinking that we'll go through all the codes first, and then I'll talk about the actual messages underneath it. That way, it's not getting broken. The plot isn't getting broken up. Okay, so yeah. The next bunch of codes is. Apologies, things are loading really slowly here. Yeah. Okay, next one is one that was right after the 9th episode. So this is where the looping footage starts coming in. Part of this is to sort of try and intimidate y'all a bit more. Like, hey, we're watching Jay. But another part of it is that it allows for part of the codes to be hidden into the footage, making it a bit harder to transcribe, which yeah, that is true. I can't believe it started 3 months ago either. Especially, like, it's felt probably like at least a few years, especially with the appendix in the middle of it, because that on its own felt like a lifetime. Okay, so yeah, on to 9.1, which is yeah. I think this was Rod. Okay, so for the 9.1, the rotation number each had a bit of a meaning. So 9.1, this is the one with the shot of the wall. So cuts to the black for 6 seconds with the wall image as text. And so the first rot is 6. And the second one that came in on the fourth loop of that slamming computer, that was rot 4, fourth loop. Then told us when he plans to call. He planned to call on Saturday, which is the 7th day, so rot 7. And then rot 5, because I think it's because that the 5th video was when they discussed the protocol, but I might be misremembering that. Yeah. Okay, so okay, 10.1, the one where you guys had a bit of trouble. So yeah, this was the time lapse of a clock. Okay, so yeah, expedite retrieval. I did not expect that to be as difficult for you guys to get as it turned out to be. I think I slowed it down a bit too much. Like, if it was probably 25% faster, I think you guys would have just been able to hear that it was supposed to be a human talking. So it would have been a bit easier for you guys to get that. So got to keep that in mind for next time. And apart from that, I think that's the only real remarkable piece of info on that one. Okay, let's see. I feel like I'm missing something here. So, 1 sec. Okay. Yeah, some shots of grass growing. That one. Okay, so this is the first one where I made the stock footage because I don't know, I just couldn't find any good shots of just grass, which is a bit surprising, to be honest. But oh well. Yeah, it's also the one where they are talking to you. Oh. Oh. Okay, so yeah. Shots of grass growing, reverse, and minus to get observe our burns, which is probably the second most hidden bit of text, to be fair, because that's pretty stuck in there. But yeah, observe our burns is talking about Ryan Burns, aka Jay's dad, in our world, not in because and I think we're on to Yeah. Okay, so here's where Blaze comes in, into the videos at least. So, yeah, I'm really proud of Blaze's logo because it took a while to get the flame just right on the beat. Okay, so yeah, QR codes, which they can't read, and yeah. The Null Island thing, that is gonna be, it's not nothing, I'll put it that way. Okay, so this is the one after the waste of time. So, as planned, civilian will be in a fatal car crash. Okay, so big plus ternary. So yeah, I think the only difficult bit is, yeah. Okay, so uh, episode 12.1 is where I started to have like my idea for the codes for this season was that this is the tutorial level in a sense. So trying to keep it at around the same difficulty before I get some real difficult codes in there. So this one was more a code within the code with 32564 for the calendar dates, which were then hidden, which then led to a shot in my claw. Isn't my baby so cute? And I found some video of my child coloring. Ugh. And yeah, I think then the next video was, yeah, this was the checkerboard one. Ugh. Okay. So, yeah, it, I, okay, so I thought I knew how that code worked. So I took a brief overview of it. So, oh, key. It must be like a normal key. It just needs 26 letters instead of, it needs all 26 letters of the alphabet in order. So I first tried to make the key like just the first few lyrics to the song, which did not work and led to a bunch of dashes, which I thought, oh, that must be how it normally looks. Until I tried it with a different key. I was like, oh no, that's screwed up. So I took that down, put up the correct one with the right key, and realized that the numbers didn't work anymore. So I had to take that down again and finally put up the final version. Now, the reason that the checkerboard, that I used the checkerboard cipher to begin with was actually, it was story driven. The best way I think I can put it was that Stephen and John are looking at Jay's videos. And so they can take inspiration from something they see there and use that for part of their code. But that also means that now that Stephen and John's videos are visible by Jay, he can also take some inspiration. So yeah, I can see how it would drive you guys nuts. I was fucking mortified the first time I realized that, oh, this one's wrong. I have to completely take it down. Otherwise, everyone's gonna be just unable to get what the fuck I'm saying. Ugh, that was. And then, I was so in a hurry to make sure I got the right one up that I fucked it up again. Okay. Yeah, so I think that that's all about the checkerboard code. And so we're on to, I believe, the last code, which is all in French. yeah, so I do not speak French at all. I speak a little bit of Russian, which is why I was gonna originally put it in Russian. But then I remembered, hey, my mom speaks French, and one of the guys solving this speaks French, so hopefully that'll work. I have no idea how well the messages got transcribed, so if it turned into just a pile of absolute nothingness, please let me know so I can tell you guys what that actually says. Whew. Yeah, that was okay. And that's all about the codes that are currently there, but a little bit of hint for future codes. Actually, yeah, Galmont. If you could do that, that'd be helpful. So that way I can clear up any mistranslation on my part. But yeah, as I was saying, Stephen, John, Blaze, and now Jay, they are all now aware of each other, which means that A, they're going to various extents, try to figure out each other's codes. So you guys might have some help on that with some of the codes from some of the NPCs. But honestly, more importantly, is that they're going to be able to take inspiration from things that other groups say and use that as a bit of a seed to start their own codes, like the checkerboard code. Now, in which video was it? I don't remember the title, but Jay mentioned the Cold War and how they did the Red Scare, I think. The Cold War, the Red Scare, he mentioned that in one of his videos, which Stephen and John saw. So they took inspiration from that and they used the checkerboard code, which is the starting point for a lot of codes that the Russians used during the Cold War. So there are going to be a few things like that happening, and possibly have already happened. If you guys can see. Okay, so you got the. Okay, let's see here. Okay, yeah. So our superiors approve of the chief agent you chose. His participation in this matter might be very helpful. Okay, so our superiors approve of the senior agent chosen for Gerald Brody. His involvement in this matter may be most beneficial. Pretty close, just a bit of the wording changes. Okay, code liberal has started. All the pieces are in place. Agents Glass and Sharp will supervise the project until the end. What to do? Yeah. We have commenced the plan, code liberal. All the pieces are in place. Agents Glass and Sharp will be overseeing this plan through its completion. Okay, and Agent Brody and his partner can observe the first and second subjects. This is actually Agent Brody and his partnered agent will be allowed observation of the primary and secondary subject, but until further notice will defer to Agents Glass and Sharp and will not interfere without a direct order from either our organization or yours. And yeah, the last bit. During the initial stages of Code Liberal, our superiors have ordered complete radio silence, and we must ask the same of you. So that's what it actually said, which thankfully it looks like it was pretty close. So, okay, so yeah, Glass and Sharp are not Stephen and John. So, for one part, Stephen and John aren't, they're not one person. They are more, okay, so Stephen and John both represent the agencies. So, think of Stephen and John as departments, more like it. Like, they're both sort of the IT department in a way. Stephen is pumping out videos to send to John, who they then decode the video with their, they're not making the codes personally, as was revealed thanks to the checkerboard blunder. They use a computer program to create the codes and decode the codes. So, yeah. Stephen and John are both more departments with like 5 people working in them each. And they make the code, they send it over, it gets decoded, they get a code in response, pretty much. Glass and Sharp, they are both actual people. They are individual agents who work for the organization that Stephen represents. I realized that that was probably the most convoluted way I could say it. So to put it in a less convoluted way, Glass and Sharp are the Stephen organization counterparts to John's Agent Brody and his partnered agent. I hope that that version was more readily digestible, I guess. Yeah. Okay, good. Because I feel like I was rambling a bit there. Okay, so I think I've talked over all the codes. So, yes, at this point, I'm handing it mostly over to you. Like, if you guys want me to go over what the message is that was sent, like, so you guys can get a more concrete version of the plot, then, like, fire away. I'll answer any question that you guys can think of that isn't a major spoiler. Like, I'm not going to tell you who the senior agent that he paired up with Brody is, because, you know, they're going to be in second season pretty heavily, along with Glass, Sharp, and, you know, main characters. This is a final Morse code dot. Let me check that. Okay, so that was the mole. One second. Ooh, no. Oh no. It's crashing again. Yeah, okay. So, reverse. Okay. That might have been a editing error, because I don't have anything about leaving out one dot. But it might also be that that the audio got cut out a bit. Like it might have overlapped with some of the initial audio, so you guys couldn't hear it. Is what I would guess, because it shouldn't, like, considering the way I turned it into audio, I didn't cut down that part of it at all, so it shouldn't have. Yeah. So yeah, that's just out of my hands at that point. I can't prevent things from that happening due to compression or possible editor oversight. Yeah. So yeah, probably the audio got cut out. Oh yeah. Okay. So That was happening during the time you all were asking for hints about the. Uh, it was partially meant to scare Tom, but it was also partially meant as a hint because this was during the time while you guys were asking for hints about the clock puzzle. So if you notice, expedite is one of the words that he uses in that sentence, which also happens to be, half of the code. Yeah. Why switch? Yeah, yeah. As as I was saying, it's more of a tutorial level, sort of level. Uh, so what I was trying to do is I've got some, at least what I think are some pretty interesting codes for season 2 lined up. So I wanted to. I don't know how many of y'all have done ARG stuff before, so I figured that it would be a good idea to ramp up the difficulty slowly. But what sort of happened more was that the last few videos were like double the difficulty of the videos before it. So I meant to hide the the pieces of the puzzle a bit more thoroughly there, which okay, part of it was a cover up. So in the video prior to that, the one with the S, that was more of a happy accident because when you save, you have to press Control S, and if you do that while in a while in a text box, that leaves just a giant S. So I had this giant S because I saved right in the middle of typing out the code for that part of the video. So I just had S and then some ternary after it. So it was like, crap, how do I turn this into an actual code? So I then said, okay, it's an H and I think a W that was in that. So shadow, that's gonna be the code. Put an H, put an A, put an O. They can figure it out, I hope. Because I've yeah, I figure that's the best thing you can do when you have a mistake. If because otherwise you're sort of revealing the curtain a bit, which is inevitable, but try and put another curtain behind that curtain, I guess. So I was like, if I put an H and then some ternary after it, they should probably be able to connect that to the S with some ternary after it, and then they can pull that all together and make shadow. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to make everything happen according to plan, as my appendix proved pretty thoroughly. So I have, like, no matter what you're doing, you have to make everything seem intentioned. So mistakes are part of the vision, just sort of consequentially. Uh, so, well, thank you. I do have a bit of practice. Like, my dad got me into Pathfinder for a bit, so I did like 1 or 2 games of Pathfinder, and he said, "Hey, why don't you try GMing a game?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I then forgot about that for a week. Yeah. So yeah, I forgot about that for a week. So I had to pretty much ad lib that entire thing. So I've got experience doing that, and I also do a bit of improv comedy. So improvisation is sort of in my blood at this point. So hopefully, no matter what mistakes I make, I'll be able to flip and tumble them into something that actually contributes to the game instead of taking away from it. Maybe not the stealthiest award, but definitely the most on their radar award, which is not exactly great. Yeah, I'll admit to having a bit of, I guess the term is adventure game logic. Like if I think, yeah, this makes sense, then I I, I figure that other people are going to make sense of it. Now, part of that is that they don't want the code to be solved, so they're not going to leave shit tons of clues hanging about. So I think, in a way, brute forcing it is sort of like looking up the answer to the question in the back of the textbook. That's gonna work, but when you're at a test, you can't look up the answer in the back of the textbook anymore. So you're gonna have to use the answers that you did look up to try and figure out the formula, and then use that formula on the test. I guess that's my way of looking at brute forcing. It's going to work in a lot of situations, but in the situations it doesn't use the logic from the codes you did brute force to figure out the code that you can't. Like, in a way, like brute forcing is a tool. It's not a tool that works all the time, but it is a tool that can help you out. So honestly, feel free. It's not the way that I planned on you guys solving it, but if you solve it, then you solved it. And it might not be the most fun way to do it. I'll say that much. But in the end, like, you gotta say, do I want to follow the path laid out for us, even though I may not be able to see it? Or do I want to get from point A to point B? And I am going to try and do a bit better on that in the future, because I'm guessing that it's not as much fun as following the train of logic. But don't feel bad about brute forcing codes. That's more on my fault than on your fault, because the path wasn't as highlighted as it should be. Thanks, but honestly, I think that I relied a bit too much on Vig. Oh god, I'm not gonna try and say it because I'm gonna screw it up. But I relied I think a little bit too heavily on Vig. Like, there are shit tons of things you can do with Vig, and I'm gonna use it more in the future, because like I still have variations of Vig that I want to try out. But I guess my point is, expect a wider variety in the future. Tom's Twitter bio? Okay. Where is Tom? Here we are. Since 2018, eh? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So Tom is been called out, as have you all not, and is it? Oh, I don't know if it's Moat or Mott, but yeah, the more active members are going to get called out of it because, like, this is a pretty small group, which means that I can do stuff with that stuff like that without alienating a large part of the group because most of the people who I assume that most of y'all are working together. So calling out doesn't just make it interesting for that person, it makes it interesting for everyone because you know that person is getting called out. Yeah. Ugh. Uh, so yeah, I think okay. So talked over a bit about future codes. Yeah. Oh, actually, I do have a question for you guys. Did you figure out the illusion that is with code liberal? Because that is in a bit a code in itself. Oh, that okay. That's good. Okay, so I was asking if you guys had figured out the code behind Code Liberal yet, because there is actually some. Yeah, it does have some info that you guys can glean from it. If you honestly, just with what I've said in the stream, you should be able to figure out the code behind Code Liberal. I think that yeah, I've said enough stuff that if you pull together the right parts, you would be able to figure out the code behind it. Yeah. And honestly, if you guys do, A, I'll be pretty impressed because it is supposed to be not exactly easy to figure out. And B, you guys will actually be pretty ahead of the start of the season. You'll actually start Jay off in a better place than he would be otherwise. What did you forget, Micah? Okay. Yeah, you guys might want to. Yeah, you guys might want to investigate that a bit because it's. Uh, yeah, it's pretty important plot wise. Like you can probably figure it out with what I've given you and a bit of googling, probably. So, but yeah, like if you guys don't not, it's not going to be catastrophic. It's assumed that you guys won't figure it out by the start of season two. So if you guys do, that's great. But if you guys don't, then I'll tell you what it means at well during the next season retrospective. All right. Well, yeah, that. Hmm. Uh, Let me see if I can change something in the settings. See if that I can help you out with that. And it's looking like I cannot without. Uh, yeah, it's looking like I can't do that without making it impossible for this to record the live stream. So this is the lowest latency I can get without making it impossible for people to see this later. All right. Uh, Anything else you guys want me to talk about? Because yeah, there are some things that I could probably explain, but you guys already know would be. It's not. It's CodeZilla was more to point you in the direction of a code, where Code Liberal is to point you in the direction of a plan of action. That, uh, in a way, they sort of tried that. Just replace Hooters for the Democratic Party with cell phone repair. Uh, yeah, well, as I said, Googling might be helpful as well as a few things I've said about the code making process in this live stream. No. Well, yeah. Any other questions that you guys can think of? Yeah, Blaze is he was never working for them, but he did like he's always he's always been against them, but that doesn't mean that he didn't at one point hide in their organization. He did. He in fact I actually this I should probably explain. So Blaze is originally from our world. He also has the ability to well not he has roughly the ability to go between the worlds. He's not as good at it as Stephen and John because, well, they, are giant organizations with a lot of backing. So they can go between the worlds pretty easily, but Blaze is occasionally able to pretty much hitchhike through their means of transportation over between worlds. So he used that to uh, hide in both of their organizations to find a bit of dirt on him. And when he got found out, he got the fuck out of there. Uh, I'll talk a bit vague about this since it's not exact, like, it is sort of plot related. So, yes, but they don't necessarily acknowledge them. They know of them and are supporters of them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's like a file about the organization that they have. It's more, hey, you work for us, sort of, and we give you some money and some resources. It's it's different for both of them. Like for Stephen, it's really complicated actually. But for John, John is pretty much just a government organization. It's, as I said, more complicated for Stephen, but John's is pretty simple. It's, we don't acknowledge your existence, but you work for us. Yeah, no problem. I pretty much knew that I was going to do a retrospective at around the same time that I knew I was going to do an ARG because, uh, yeah, a lot of like I've seen a lot of people like in slash R ARG and stuff like that going, hey, I want to make an ARG, but I don't know how. Hey, I want to make an ARG, but I don't think I'll be able to. And decent part of it is because I want to talk about the series without having to be in character and like talking with the people who are actually involved with it. And the other part of it is it's not really hard to make an ARG. You just have to be real fucking stubborn. Like, uh, as long as you say, I'm going to do this and then do it, you're going to be able to do it in sort of a roundabout way of saying it. Like, I think the real strength of me as a GM, apart from adaptability, is being just a bit of a stubborn bastard. Because, like, the second I woke up after my appendectomy, like the photo I took, that was 5 minutes after I woke up. I said, "Hey, where's my phone? I need to continue this." I grabbed it, I took a photo, and then I spent some time in recovery. So as long as you're willing to power through things, you're going to be able to do it. And yeah, I think as long as there aren't any other questions, I think I've gotten a good amount of info out there, and I really hope you guys managed to figure out the code behind Code Liberal. And I'll see you again in game in hopefully a few weeks to the 2-month limit, and out of game after this next season ends. So let me try and figure out how to turn off the live stream. Okay. Oh. Uh, all right. Well, yeah, I'm thinking that I'll probably do more live streaming stuff for the next season retrospective, since I think that'll allow me to answer your questions more directly, and hopefully I'll have less of the mistake background stuff to talk about. So yeah, and aha, here's the button. So see you guys later.